Part 80. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 818. That photo is real. I did carry Ling Ran into that hotel last night. Su Yicheng looked into An Ran's eyes and said calmly. An Ran looked at him steadily and said nothing, just quietly listening to what she continued. Su Yicheng stood up, walked to her side, held her hand tightly, and slowly told An Ran everything about last night. It turned out that when Su Yicheng was getting ready to get off work yesterday, he was temporarily called to the office by Secretary Zhang. When Su Yicheng came out of Secretary Zhang's office and returned to his own office, Ling Ran didn't know when he had arrived. She looked at him with a half-smile. Su Yicheng frowned instinctively, looked at her slightly unhappy, and directly took the document in his hand and put it on his desk. While packing up his things, he said, I think next time I should formally inform Secretary Zhang that if Ling Ran comes to see me next time, you can just block the door. Ling Ran smiled delicately, not annoyed, and glanced at the big and charming waves on her head. She smiled and walked towards him, with her hands on the desk. The V-neck shirt showed her chest in front of Su Yicheng's eyes. Su Yicheng glanced away in disgust, not looking at the somewhat fragrant scene. He only said coldly, please respect yourself. Ling Ran didn't care. She looked at him with a slightly charming smile and said, Cheng, you are still thinking of me. Su Yicheng only glanced at her lightly and said, I don't remember giving you such a hint. Ling Ran smiled, sat down in front of his desk, crossed her legs, and said, you were willing to take me to see Yan Li that day, doesn't that mean everything? I remember what I told you was that it was only for this one time, and it won't happen again. Su Yicheng said coldly, took the packed briefcase and stood up to leave. Seeing that he was about to leave, Ling Ran stepped forward and took his hand. She wanted to take a step forward, but his hand was already caressed away by him mercilessly. She said coldly, Miss Ling, please leave. I'm getting ready to get off work. Ling Ran was neither angry nor angry at his rejection, she just shrugged her shoulders and followed him out of the office. When Su Yicheng came out of the office, Secretary Zhang outside had not yet gotten off work and was sorting out the documents and information that would be used tomorrow. Ling Ran and Su Yicheng came out one after another. When Su Yicheng passed by Secretary Zhang's desk, he directly said to Secretary Zhang, Secretary Zhang, if Miss Ling comes to see me again in the future, she will directly refuse it for me. I have nothing to say to her. Secretary Zhang was stunned, obviously not expecting Su Yicheng to say this directly in front of Ling Ran. Ling Ran in front also stopped and her face turned a little green. Anyone who heard such words would be unhappy. Su Yicheng ignored their reactions and walked directly out of the office door with his bag in hand. It was already past 8 p.m. when he came out again. Because he had an appointment with An Ran that night, Su Yicheng walked in a hurry and strode from the city government building towards the parking lot. Behind him, Ling Ran stepped on nearly 10 centimeters of high heels and trotted to catch up with some difficulty. She pulled Su Yicheng and said, Su Yicheng, what did you mean by that just now? Am I so unwelcome to you? Su Yicheng frowned slightly, caressed her hand away indifferently, looked at her expressionless, and said in a calm tone, what do you think? Wasn't what I just said clear enough? Ling Ran's face was a little hurt. She looked at him shaking his head and said aggrievedly, why do you have to treat me like this? We obviously had such a good relationship before. He didn't feel any pity because of the grievance on her face. Su Yicheng just said coldly, you also know that was before. Since it is in the past, what's the point of pestering her again and again? He has never been a person. I will miss those who live in the past. Ling Ran shook her head and stepped forward as if to grab his hand, but she didn't move away from him. Tears were like broken pearls. She looked at Su Yicheng as if they were rolling down his face uncontrollably and said, why not, are you willing to give me a chance? Just because I made a mistake, Do you have to sentence me to death? Suyi Cheng, you are so cruel. You didn't even give me a chance to appeal. Isn't it too cruel for you to treat me like this? Suyi Cheng turned around and left. He really didn't want to talk to her about such a meaningless topic. This topic should have ended 7 years ago. Now that he wants to bring up the same old topic again, he doesn't have that much extra time. Suyi Cheng, don't go, Ling Ran chased after him, trying to hold his hand, but he shook him away unceremoniously. The heels on her feet were too high, and she almost fell to the ground. Suyi Cheng walked directly towards his parked car without turning his head. Suyi Cheng put his briefcase directly on the passenger seat and sat in the driver's seat. Suyi Cheng loosened the tie he had worn all day out of habit, then started the car and prepared to leave. As he drove slowly towards the gate, the guard at the door opened the iron door immediately. While taking the mobile phone that he had just taken from the desk and put it in his pocket, he wanted to call Ran and tell her that he would be there soon. Only then did he see the caller ID displayed on the screen of the mobile phone. It turned out that Ran had just called her. Just called him. Thinking that she must be anxious, she pressed the callback button. The moment she looked up and the call was not connected, she suddenly heard a scream from the front. She looked up and saw Ling Ran falling in front of his car. Damn it, Suyi Cheng cursed in the car, threw the phone aside, quickly stopped the car, opened the door and got out. Ling Ran was seen falling to the ground, with a cut on her forehead and blood flowing out from the wound. The guard in the communication room behind him also heard the sound and ran over from inside. He looked at Suyi Cheng and asked, "Sushi, what's going on?" He was a little confused. Why did he hit him so quickly? Go on, he was watching that woman walk out just now. Suyi Cheng didn't care to speak, he lifted Ling Ran up on the ground, patted her face, and called out, Ling Ran, wake up, do you hear me? Ling Ran in her arms just closed her eyes and didn't respond despite his calls. The wound on his forehead was not big, but blood continued to flow out. Suyi Cheng was on the phone just now. He had no idea when Ling Ran ran in front of his car and how he was hit. He also didn't know whether the force he put on him was heavy or not, but looking at him now, he was still unconscious. Yes, I think the impact force should be quite big. He just picked up Ling Ran by the waist and said to the doorman on the side, "Open the car door for me." The guard came to his senses, nodded repeatedly, and said, okay. As he said that, he stepped forward and opened Suyi Cheng's backseat door. Suyi Cheng hugged Ling Ran and let her lie down in the back, then walked around the front of the car and got directly into the car. He turned to look at Ling Ran behind him, started the car and drove towards the city hospital. When Suyi Cheng's car was about to drive to the hospital, Ling Ran in the back seat woke up quietly, slowly climbed up and sat up, put her hand on her forehead, and said with some pain, "Okay, it hurts." Suyi Cheng glanced at her through the rearview mirror and said, "Be patient, we'll be at the hospital soon." Ling Ran seemed to have come to her senses at this moment. She looked at Suyi Cheng who was driving in front of her and said, "Cheng, I feel so dizzy." Suyi Cheng glanced at her, turned the steering wheel in a circle, and stopped directly in front of the outpatient clinic building. I got out of the car and opened the back seat, looked at her and asked, "Can I go?" Ling Ran glanced at him, shook her head, and said, "My feet hurt." Hearing this, Suyi Cheng had no choice but to pick her up again and head towards the outpatient clinic building. Leaning in his arms, Ling Ran put her hands around his neck, leaned on his chest with some satisfaction, and said softly, "Cheng, how long has it been since you hugged me like this?" Suyi Cheng didn't say anything, he just looked in front of him with a cold and serious expression. Cheng, I miss you so much," Ling Ran said softly, rubbing her whole body into his arms. He was carried directly to the emergency room. Because it was night, there were not many people in the emergency room. The doctor on duty came over after hearing the sound and examined Ling Ran carefully. In fact, there was nothing serious. The mountain mark on his forehead was not big, not deep, and doesn't require stitches. If you rub some iodine on it, there won't be much of a problem. As for the injury on the foot, it was slightly red and swollen, and it was initially concluded that it might be a sprain. When applying iodine, you need to clean the wound. When Nurse Xiaja used alcohol to clean Ling Ran, she heard Ling Ran yelling exaggeratedly, her hands kept stretching towards Su Yicheng, and her face was full of anger. Wronged. Su Yicheng stood indifferently and did not go towards her. He only asked the doctor standing aside about the situation. After the forehead injury was treated and the medicine was applied, Ling Ran still felt that she had a severe headache. Finally, on the doctor's advice, she went to take a X-ray, and also took a X-ray for the sprained foot. Although it was a small wound, Ling Ran was given tetanus on the advice of the doctor. When she was put on an intravenous drip, Su Yicheng suggested that she call someone at home and ask Mrs. Ling or Ling Lin to take care of her. But Ling Ran refused, insisting that her mother and sister were running around because of her father's affairs, and now she went directly to the province to see if there were any friends who could help, and they were not in Zhongcheng. Su Yicheng raised his hand and looked at his watch. It was already past 11 o'clock. He wanted to call and ran, but after digging through his pocket, it rang. It seemed that his cell phone had been left in the car just now, and he was no longer with him now. He stood up and wanted to find his cell phone to call and ran, but just as he stood up and wanted to leave, Ling Ran, who was sitting in the infusion hall, shouted loudly and asked him nervously if he wanted to leave her behind. Su Yicheng explained that he just went out to make a phone call. But Ling Ran didn't listen, and she was a little excited. She shouted and accused, "Su Yicheng, do you want to leave me here and leave me like this? Don't forget, it was your car that hit me. Don't you want to not be responsible?" Although it was the middle of the night, there were still a few people sitting sporadically in the infusion hall. When everyone was already drowsy during the infusion, Ling Ran's shout immediately wiped out all their sleepy souls. Everyone looked over here, and among them there was a middle-aged aunt who looked at Su Yicheng and said reproachfully, "Young man, it's so shameful of you to do this. It's already good that they didn't hold you accountable for hitting someone. Why don't you still, if you don't treat others, you must be moral. You are so immoral." Several other people also agreed, and some even came to see Su Yicheng, saying that they wanted to keep an eye on the perpetrator for Ling Ran so that he wouldn't escape. Su Yicheng was really confused, so he had no choice but to sit aside and let Ling Ran finish everything. Films taken showed that Ling Ran's forehead was only slightly bruised and there was no concussion. In addition, the foot injury was only a sprain and did not affect the muscles. But Ling Ran still pressed her head and said that she was in severe pain. The doctor could only smile helplessly and said that the machine could not lie. Su Yicheng glanced at Ling Ran, then turned to the doctor on duty and said, "Doctor, please arrange for her to be hospitalized." He really didn't have time to spend time with Ling Ran. She really had a headache and felt uncomfortable and just stayed in the hospital. The doctors and nurses are here anyway. The doctor on duty glanced at him, then at Ling Ran, and persuaded, according to her condition, she doesn't need to be hospitalized at all. Besides, the number of hospital beds is already tight. Many patients still don't have enough beds to stay in the hospital directly in the corridor. If you insist that you would feel more at ease staying in the hospital, then I can arrange a bed in the corridor for you." Hearing this, Su Yicheng didn't say anything. He just turned his head and glanced at Ling Ran. He saw the corner of Ling Ran's mouth twitching and said, "No, maybe it won't hurt tomorrow morning. I'd better go home." Su Yicheng didn't express any opinion, he just took the order from the doctor and went directly to get her medicine. When she came back, Ling Ran still said that her feet hurt so much that she couldn't walk. Su Yicheng frowned, but finally picked her up by the waist and left the hospital. Sitting in the car, Su Yicheng just turned around and drove Ling Ran back when he suddenly heard Ling Ran in the car say that she no longer lived there and had moved away. Su Yicheng glanced at her and didn't ask any more questions. He only asked her current address. Ling Ran casually mentioned an address. When Su Yicheng drove the car to that place, he realized that the place she was talking about was a small hotel that was not big. He frowned and turned to look at her. Ling Ran's eyes flickered a little, and she just said, "Don't look at me like that. The place I lived in before was not bought for me by my father secretly. Now that he has stepped down, can I still go back? It has been a long time ago. It has been sealed off, and now the three of us in the family can only squeeze into this small hotel." Su Yicheng always felt that something was wrong, but now he couldn't think about it too much. What he wanted most now was to go back and find An Ran. Without saying anything else, he got out of the car, opened the door, hugged Ling Ran, and walked towards the hotel. As they were going up the stairs, Ling Ran deliberately blew into his ear, saying that she would be scared by herself at night. The implication was obvious. The hand also began to move restlessly back and forth in front of his chest. Su Yicheng stopped directly on the corridor, gave her a cold look, and said in a freezing tone, "Ling Ran, believe it or not, I will throw you here directly." Hearing this, Ling Ran curled her lips and didn't dare to move any more. He sent her directly to the door of the hotel room to see that Su Yicheng didn't go in, and ran down the stairs without even looking back. He didn't pay any attention to Ling Ran's call behind him. When I sat in the car again, I found the mobile phone that I had thrown aside before. I was about to call An Ran, but I saw that the time was too late, so I gave up in the end. Without any further delay, I stayed for an extra minute, started the car and drove back. After getting home, Mayor Su, who always abides by traffic rules, drove a little too fast this time. Su Yicheng told An Ran everything about last night, and then hugged her quietly without speaking for a long time. An Ran leaned into his arms in the same posture as before. After a while, she spoke calmly and said, "I believe you." Hearing this, Su Yicheng smiled faintly as he hugged her, and the strength of his hug was obviously much stronger than before. After hugging him for a while, An Ran withdrew from his arms, looked at him and asked worriedly, "If this matter is so big this time, will it have any impact on you?" Su Yicheng looked at her, stretched out his hand to touch her face, and simply said, "Don't worry, I can handle it." An Ran sighed softly, shook his head and said, "Do you think these videos and photos were sent by Ling Ran?" Listening to what he said, it seemed that everything was planned by Ling Ran. When he went to that hotel at that time, he was so direct and coincidental. "I was caught by someone and took a photo, and every angle of the photo was captured so accurately, as if I knew in advance which angle they were coming from. Besides her, I can't think of anyone else. Maybe she had already planned everything when she went to him to help her father. She went to him on purpose last night because Secretary Zheng had done something to her about what happened the day before yesterday. There was no defense at all, so he let her into the office directly, and then deliberately told him that, and even rushed out to hit him with his car. She pretended to be unconscious even though it was only a slight scratch, and created all the conditions for him to finally. I carried her to the hotel like this, and arranged for someone to take photos secretly at the correct angle. But it wouldn't be good for her if such a video were to be spread. After all, she is a woman. If such a video was spread, how would she be able to meet people when she went out? She really couldn't understand how Ling Ran could do this. Even giving up his direct reputation, just for revenge. So what if this revenge is successful? Doesn't she know that she has lost much more than before? Su Yicheng reached out and rubbed her hair, and said with a smile, "Okay, I don't want to think about it anymore. I will solve this matter, but don't go out recently. The reporters and media outside will probably chase you." An Ran nodded, "Yes, I understand." After saying that, she leaned against his chest again, and the two of them sat quietly hugging each other. Su Yicheng did not go to the office today and directly contacted Secretary Zheng on the phone. Secretary Zheng said that he had received hundreds of calls today, all about the videos and photos on the internet. Although the post had been blocked and deleted by them in the morning, it had been forwarded and downloaded by tens of thousands of people before the blockade, and now almost the entire Zhongcheng is discussing the Zhongcheng mayor's pornographic photos, and now it is no longer just discussed on the forum, but has been directly forwarded by some netizens to Weibo. As a result, the matter has developed rapidly and spread across the country. Some human flesh searches revealed that the woman in the video was Ling Ran. Not only did they find out Ling Ran's identity and background, but even the past events between Su Yicheng and Ling Ran a few years ago were completely uncovered. Came out, but the development of this matter was so fast that people were caught off guard. When such a thing broke out, the whole Zhongcheng and even the whole of China were in an uproar. The photo was wildly forwarded on the internet. Some netizens were excited and abusive, some were watching the show and watching the fun, and some were condemning it from the perspective of God. It can be said that all sentient beings have all kinds of expressions. The government immediately issued a statement saying that the person in the video was definitely not Su Yicheng. It also specifically stated that the matter had been forwarded to the Public Security Bureau and that the city government must thoroughly investigate this matter. In addition, Secretary Zhang also called Su Yicheng as soon as possible. First, he scolded him for not paying attention to lifestyle issues, and also informed him that he had to stop all the work he was doing before the matter was investigated clearly. Su Yicheng had no objection, but emphasized that the person above was not him. And Ran stood at the window, frowning and looking downstairs. The news truck could be clearly seen at the entrance of the community. The media reporters were lying in ambush downstairs, waiting for them to go out and then swarming up to let them publish. Please share your views and opinions on this matter. He sighed softly and fell directly into that familiar embrace before turning around. The warm breath fell on her ears, and she asked, "What are you looking at?" She relaxed and leaned into his arms, and said with a chuckle, "Look at the people I keep guarding downstairs for work. In a few days, the heat over this matter will dissipate, and they will disperse as well," Su Yicheng said softly and calmly. And Ran nodded and just said, "It's just inconvenient for Mrs. Zhang. She has to go back and forth every day and is always asked questions." Yes, Su Yicheng nodded and said, "Sister-in-law Zhang." Just when he was about to say something, suddenly the cell phone in his pocket rang at this time. He let go of and ran and took out the cell phone. The caller ID showed home, which was a call from the courtyard. It should be a call from Mom. After looking at and ran, Su Yicheng directly answered the phone. "Hello." Oh Qin Yun sighed heavily on the other end of the phone, and then said, "Cheng, you will come back right away. Your grandfather and your father have something to ask you." "Okay," Su Yicheng responded directly. In fact, when he saw the call, he already knew what the call was about. Digression. Continue to shamelessly ask for votes. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 819. Second update. Seeing someone disappear quickly, Zhou Mikang's lips curled up unconsciously, and then he explained to Chu Xia on the other end of the phone, "It's Zhou Hanliang who came to deliver the documents." Chu Xia chuckled, "What are you feeling guilty about?" "Okay, I'll call Ou Mingtao soon and tell him that I can't interfere at all about his daughter, because I can't let my wife suffer in order to help others. Can we still have a pleasant conversation?" Chu Xia snorted coldly, "Okay, I will be very happy if others regard me as a jealous person. Really, the babies will also be happy for me. Zhou Mikang has a black line. Is this a threat to the policy? Is he addicted to it? He was just talking casually, how could he really bury her in it? Okay, it's all my fault. Originally, as a man, he had to give in to women, and since he was older than her, she had to give in to others. Now that she had 2 more babies in her belly, what else could he do? Is there any other way besides being half shorter? Finally making his little wife happy, the teacher Zhangzi stopped trying to keep things in check and took the initiative to turn the topic to Qin Haoshan and Yin Suekin. Qin Haoshan is lying about them, this is absolute. His purpose was to arouse your sympathy and help him. Later, after you talked with Yin Suekin went to him to ask for the reason. He had tried to anger Yin Suekin, causing the fait accompli to reach your ears and make you believe it. What he said, but failed. Originally, his plan was to delay for a while to see your attitude, but Yin Suekin forced him to express his position, saying that if he really didn't plan to be with her, he would tell her clearly. With the current situation of Qin Haoshan's family, how could he dare to really break up with Yin Suekin? After weighing the pros and cons, he chose to express his attitude and let Yin Suekin be with him wholeheartedly. This is an extremely selfish boy. His main purpose in interceding for his father is actually to give himself a good family background and more opportunities to choose. Now that you feel that there is a high probability that you won't be able to help, you should quickly make the choice that is best for you. Don't worry, he won't bother you anymore, and this matter is over for the time being. Zhou Mikang, I'm not happy at all. Chu Xia sighed, it would be such a waste of a good girl like Yin Suekin to fall into the hands of a man like Qin Haoshan. This is her own choice, so don't worry about it. Feeling that his words were a bit harsh, Zhou Mikang quickly slowed down his tone. I know you are kind-hearted, but outsiders don't care about this kind of thing. It's hard to tell, right? I know. Chu Xia sighed, I'm just expressing my feelings. Do you think I'm really stupid enough to get involved in unrelated people's affairs? I'm not that idle yet, and I'm not that boring either. After all, you are still my husband and you don't understand me at all, so forget it, I won't talk to you anymore, bye. Without giving Zhou Mikang a chance to speak, Chu Xia hung up the phone. Zhou Mikang on the other end of the phone listened to the beeping sound coming from the receiver with a look of helplessness. She was definitely the only one in the world who dared to do this to him. One portion. Picking up the training results on the table and looking at them, Zhou Mikang was in a better mood. The current training is very hard, but the results are very obvious. The prophet with a little wife knows that the war is absolutely unavoidable, so he will do his best to minimize casualties. He never thought of telling anyone about this so that everyone could be prepared. The consequence of that would be that his little wife would never stand in front of others again. This was definitely a consequence that he could not bear. Selfishness and selflessness are relative. What is selflessness? In order to reduce uncertain casualties, is it selfless to let his wife lose her freedom? Haha, that is ignorance. Of course, it's possible that he was thinking too seriously. In fact, everything he worried about would never happen, but this was just a possibility, and he would never allow himself to take this risk. Besides, the fact that his little wife could tell him such a big secret was an absolute trust. Even if he lost his own life, he would not betray this trust. After thinking for a while, he dialed the number Ou Mingtao left for him. Hello, Minister Ou. After a slight hesitation, he asked tentatively, Mr. Xiaozhou. Yes, it's me. Hello, hello. Ou Mingtao's voice was obviously enthusiastic, and there was a hint of expectation. I communicated with Mei Yitong, and he said that Oug should go to his place to find him. Only after the two of them talk can he decide whether to let Oug stay with him. This morning, Ou Mingtao called him again, asking him to help talk to Mei Yitong, because Ou Mingtao and Mei Yitong had never dealt with each other, and he was afraid that he would be rejected again without any room for relief. To put it bluntly, he scared Zhou Mikang for fear of meeting the second Zhou Mikang. This was not too much, so Zhou Mikang agreed. Mei Yitong hoped that there would be more talents in this field to help. Therefore, after listening to Zhou Mikang's story, he immediately agreed. The conditions were, seeing is believing. This result is good news for Ou Mingtao, because he believes in his daughter's ability, otherwise, he would not have to beg and beg with shamelessness. Mr. Xiaozhou, thank you so much. I'll call Ouji soon and ask her to find you to resign. After a pause, he hesitated and said, why don't we let her go to Xiaomei's place to talk first, let's chat and then come to you to resign. Zhou Mikang said in a calm voice, Mr. Ou, if Mei Yitong is not satisfied, it means that she is unqualified. You already know the situation on my side. If you go through this trouble again, don't you think it is unnecessary? Yes, hey. Ou Mingtao sighed and apologized sheepishly, it's my fault that I didn't think carefully. I'll call her right now. Okay, goodbye, Minister Ou. Goodbye, Mr. Zhou. After hanging up the phone, Zhou Mikang went to find Zhou Hanliang with his training report card. When he opened the door, he found Ouji sitting opposite Zhou Hanliang, smiling broadly. The moment she saw Zhou Mikang, Ouji visibly froze, then she smiled and said, have you finished the phone call, sir? I really can't believe that the teacher, who is usually so serious, can be so gentle when he calls his sister-in-law. Glancing at her expressionlessly, Zhou Mixang said nothing, but looked at Zhou Hanliang, obviously displeased. In front of Ouji, Zhou Hanliang couldn't explain anything, so he quickly smoothed things over. Teacher, after reading the results, have all your worries gone? I think you have nothing to worry about anymore. Zhou Mikang glared at him and threw the clip to him, you can lighten your load appropriately in the afternoon. Only by combining work and rest can you get twice the result with half the effort. Don't overdraw too much. Yes, I have also thought about this problem. Excessive overdraft can make people depressed. I was originally thinking about how to persuade you, but I didn't expect you to be so thoughtful, sir. Zhou Mikang snorted coldly, don't put a high hat on me. If you don't even think about such a small thing, can you still be worthy of the title of teacher? He. Zhou Hanliang smiled sheepishly, and secretly complained about Ouji's lack of attention. Can't you tell that the boss hates her? He just needs to leave quickly. Why is he sitting there with such a golden sword? Deputy Political Commissar Ou, your phone number. The orderly appeared and rescued Zhou Hanliang at the right time. Master, Political Commissar, I'm going to answer the phone first. Ouji ran out quickly. Zhou Hanliang breathed a long sigh of relief and looked at Zhou Mixang with a grimace. Sir, don't look at me like that. She's already here, so I can't ignore her. I don't have as much aura as you. Besides, if you put on an attitude like yours, people won't take it seriously at all, so why should I act like a wolf with a big tail, don't you think? Who is pretending to be a big-tailed wolf? Zhou Mikang glared at him. Anyway, you have Daodu, so you can take care of yourself. If this really causes a misunderstanding, you won't have anywhere to cry. Teacher, you can't accuse me unjustly. Zhou Hanliang looked aggrieved. It would be better if you just talk to me about training on your own, and I can't help but refuse to answer. As a result, when it came to a soldier who broke his belt in order to fight for the first place, she laughed endlessly. You said it was hard for me to train her. Alas, this just happened to catch up with you, Commander, but I can't blame you for misunderstanding. I think others who came in and saw the situation at that time would also misunderstand. If you are honest, why are you explaining so much? What did I say? Zhou Hanliang. You haven't said anything yet? So what exactly does it mean to say something? Boss, don't be so deceptive. If I didn't care about your opinion, wouldn't we need to explain so much? Zhou Mikang. Ouji burst in with a red face. She didn't even call teacher and called him by his first name. Zhou Mikang knew that Ou Mingtao had already talked to her and looked at her calmly. What's the matter? Why do you push me to someone else like a rubber ball? Oug stared straight at him. You are simply a coward and have a guilty conscience. Otherwise, there is absolutely no need for you to do this. Zhou Mikang nodded. Okay, if it makes you feel more comfortable, please do so. You bastard. Oug's tears kept rolling down. Because you are the person I admire most, I asked to work under you. Is this how you treat a comrade who truly loves the military? I stay here not because I like you, but because I feel that only the two of us can achieve better results if we cooperate. Could you please sort out business and private matters? Is it more important for your wife alone, or for the safety of the entire country? This hat is too big. Zhou Hanliang secretly glanced at Zhou Mikang, a little worried for him. He knew him too well, so he had to worry. Rs. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First Marriage Then Love, Mr. Mayor Please Be Kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 820. 1 Update. Am I wrong? Oug gritted her teeth and said, what you are doing now is indifferent between public and private matters. Withdrawing his sharp eyes, Zhou Mikang's expression became calm again. Do you want me to write a dismissal report or do you want you to hand in the application report yourself? If I don't leave, I will stay in Division A. Oug, who had been stared at by the opponent to the point of collapse, mustered up the courage to continue resisting. Zhou Mikang didn't get angry but smiled. You don't have to say this. She was about to speak louder, but after recalling her experience of dealing with Zhou Mikang, Oug suppressed her grievances and changed her strategy. Teacher, please give me a chance. If I make a mistake again, you can always stop me, just kick me out, okay? Don't say that. You're right. It's me who's wrong, okay? I'm stubborn and I don't want to find a partner with the same stubborn temper. I admit that you are very talented, but if you stay here, your talent will definitely be buried. After a pause, Zhou Mikang said, so, in order for everyone to be good comrades in the future, fill out the application report and hand it over. I don't, Oug said as she turned around and ran out. Obviously, she was going to cheat. Zhou Hanliang tried his best to bury his head as low as possible. Please ignore his existence. Unfortunately, willingness is beautiful, but reality is cruel. Go and talk to her. I'll give her an hour. If she doesn't write the application report, I will hand in the dismissal report. Teacher. Zhou Hanliang said with a bitter look on his face, if you don't even listen to my advice, what's the use of what I say? Aren't you trying to embarrass me? Doing ideological work is the responsibility of the political commissar. If you don't advise, who can? Zhou Mikang glared at him. I will go to the meeting for each group, so you don't have to go. Zhou Hanliang. Master Tongzi, how can you be so domineering? A protest is a protest, but he also knows that he really has to handle this matter. He can clearly see Oug's thoughts. The trembling smile that came to her just now was done on purpose to show the teacher. How childish. Don't say that she just smiled at herself. Even if she hugged him and took a few bites, the teacher wouldn't be jealous. In other words, if he had told the teacher the truth just now, she would have been driven away in a minute. It wasn't him. He deliberately protected her because he didn't want to be the eighth wife. When he came to Oug's office, he saw that the other party was sobbing on the table. Zhou Hanliang sighed, Deputy Political Commissar Ou, since your purpose is to contribute to the country, then don't mix in other things and fill out the application report. Everyone is happy, okay? I don't. Oug raised her head, her eyes as swollen as peaches. If I really get transferred away, I might as well just die. Tell him, either let me die or let me stay. I'm definitely not kidding. Isn't that true? Jo Han Liang looked at her dumbfounded. It's just a job transfer, why has it been promoted to this level? OUG, if you really do this, you are going too far. If it is said that the teacher took the initiative to ask you to be transferred here, you can be forgiven for saying so. The teacher did not agree with it when you came, and based on his personality, he is indeed not suitable to work with you. It was your father who asked the teacher for help in recommending you to Mr. May. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to come forward. Now that you are making such a fuss, the most ugly thing on your face is your father. I really can't leave. OUG looked at Jo Han Liang pitifully. If I left like this, I would really be too shameless to see anyone, I mean in our circle. Political Commissar Joe, you have worked with the division commander for so many years and have such a good relationship. You must know him very well and know how to persuade him. Can you help me? I know your feelings, and I will repay you twice as much in the future. Since we are talking about this, then I really have to tell you the truth. The teacher is so stubborn. When it comes to what he said, there is really no room for change. If you are willing to listen to him and honestly write the application report and hand it in, then when you meet in the future, he will still say hello to you and admit that you and him are comrades in arms. Otherwise, Jo Han Liang spread his hands, otherwise he will pretend that he doesn't know you in the future, and will treat you as nothing in front of anyone at any time. OUG looked at Jo Han Liang blankly, and for a moment, she just lay on the table and started crying. Jo Han Liang's head is getting big. After so many years as a soldier, this is the first time he has encountered such a difficult situation. He refuses to take hard and soft advice, and refuses to listen to good advice. What on earth is he going to do? It's useless for you to cry. The division commander has given you an hour. If you don't write it, then he will hand in the transfer report. He is definitely not trying to scare you. He will definitely do what he says. 20 minutes have passed now, and there are still 40 minutes to think about it. You cry and think about it? I will come back later. Of course, if you disappear, you should be able to guess the consequences, so I don't need to stress it. Wait, OUG quickly raised her head and called out to Jo Han Liang, if I tell you the truth, can you help me? In the conference room, Zhou Mikang was explaining the next training tasks to the leaders of several regiments. When he saw Jo Han Liang push the door open and come in, he unconsciously glanced at his hands, and then frowned. When the group leaders saw the teacher's sudden frown, they quickly sat up straight. When Zhou Mikang announced that the meeting was adjourned, they immediately dispersed. Before leaving the house, they all cast sympathetic glances at Jo Han Liang. Don't write, Zhou Mikang turned the pen in his hand. Okay, I understand. It's not that she doesn't write, it's... After a pause, Jo Han Liang sneered, it's because she can't write for the time being. Actually, she is actually helping the group leader. Help me, Jo Han Liang looked at him amusedly, I poured ecstasy into you right now. You're so drunk, do you know it's funny to say that? No, Jo Han Liang smiled bitterly, I'm not guilty, I didn't expect things to turn out like this. Up to now, I still can't recover. However, OUG is also innocent, or she is indeed very talented in military matters, but in other aspects. He sighed heavily, shook his head and stopped talking. Zhou Mikang glared at him, okay, if you have anything, just tell me quickly. What's the point of selling? It's okay to say it. Let me ask the teacher something first. Jo Han Liang looked at Zhou Mikang steadily, sir, what do you think of Yamiru now? Why does this involve her again? Zhou Mikang frowned, don't tell me that it was Yamiru's intention for OUG to come to work here, but even if this is true, it has nothing to do with helping me. Bar. It's not what Yamiru means, it's... Jo Hanliang scratched his head. Sir, I feel now that Yamiru is really amazing, really. If you want to say it, just say it. If you don't say it, get out, Jo Mikang said as he picked up the folder and wanted to leave. I said. Jo Hanliang hurriedly went to the door to look around, then closed the door of the conference room. After thinking about it, he moved to the innermost seat and sat down, and then said, Mr. Commander, do you know that Yamiru has something else? Are you a boyfriend? I don't know. Jo Mikang shook his head and looked at him speechlessly. Whether she has a boyfriend or not is none of my business. Don't you think it's ridiculous to ask this question? I just want to tell you that before just now, I didn't know that she had a boyfriend, and he was a very good man. Sighing, Jo Hanliang continued, I even doubted that man's reputation. It's not a false rumor. Jo Mikang interrupted him without any mistake. Why do you sound like a storyteller? Can you get to the point right away? Okay, things are complicated, so I just sighed. Now let me start from the beginning. On the 15th day of the first lunar month, Yamiru went to pay homage to Huang Xinlong, and met Zohai, who also went to pay homage. Then, the two of them got together on. Before that, Zohai and Oug had vague good intentions. Of course, this was Oug's own words. I don't know the details. Anyway, it was Yamiru who stole the man Oug liked. Then, of course Oug was not willing to give in, so she went to Yamiru, hoping that she would not destroy other people's emotions. Yamiru suggested that she would leave Zohai, unless she could make trouble for you and your sister-in-law. Oug said that she rejected Yamiru's proposal at that time. She said that she didn't like others to ruin her feelings, and she didn't want to ruin other people's feelings. Then, Yamiru told her that they could switch to another one. Blocking way. If Oug can't destroy the relationship between her teacher and sister-in-law by all means, then she will return Zohai to her, and at the same time, she will not do anything detrimental to her teacher and sister-in-law in the future. Afraid that Oug would regret it, Yamiru asked Oug to gather close friends in the circle and make this bet in front of everyone. If Oug tried her best within a month, she could not destroy her teacher and sister-in-law. If Oug is transferred out of the relationship within a week, then Oug loses. This is why Oug refused to leave. She asked the teacher to be accommodating and give her a month, and then she would take the initiative to apply for leave. Do you believe this? Jo Mikang looked at him speechlessly. Do you think Yamiru would not have thought of the method Oug came up with? Will you really be able to fulfill the bet obediently? I think so too, but Oug said that if the teacher helps, even if Yamiru doesn't fulfill the bet, she will not hesitate. Sighing, Jo Hanliang couldn't help but plead for Oug. Sir, he was really simple enough to agree to this agreement. If you transfer her now, she will lose completely. Moreover, she does not believe what we are saying and may resent her teacher for the rest of her life. Rather than letting resentment destroy a genius, it is better to give her a chance and wait. You see, okay? Even though you know that I gave her a chance, the result is still the same. Do you think it's really necessary? Jo Mikang frowned and shook his head. The Zohai that Oug likes, even though he knows what kind of person Yamiru is, he still sleeps with her. Being together is not a good thing. Jo Hanliang smiled bitterly. Yes, we all understand this truth, but Oug can't understand that she is now obsessed with winning Zohai back, and she always thinks that Zohai is deceived by Yamiru's appearance. As long as if Yamei is willing to give up, she will definitely win Zohai's heart again. Ask her to come to my office and I'll talk to her. Okay. Jo Hanliang ran out like a rabbit. As long as he was not allowed to continue to persuade Oug, he was willing to do anything. He was really inexperienced in coaxing a crying woman who was not a woman he was close to. Ah. There is a classmate in your class named Zhou Zhang, right? As soon as the call was answered, Jo Mikang asked such a straightforward question. Chu Xia was puzzled, but still replied, "Yeah, what's the matter? Have you ever interacted with him?" No. Chu Xia quickly clarified herself. Lin Mengran, Yang Xiali, Li Xinlai and Wu Jingbo took turns to accompany me, so I never felt alone, and I never dated any boys. The corners of the teacher's mouth curled up slightly, but his voice remained calm. "What did I say? And you just explained so much. How guilty are you?" Early summer. Ours. First marriage then love. Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 821. Second update. Who has a guilty conscience? After being stunned for a moment, Chu Xia confidently denounced the teacher Zhangzi. "You'd better reflect on yourself. If you weren't always so narrow-minded, wouldn't I need any extra explanation?" Jo Mikang was choked and held a breath in his throat. It took him a long time to calm down, but he was not angry. Instead, he made a request seriously. "Since you know that I am petty in this regard, you should be more careful. Be careful and don't make me angry for no reason." Without giving Chu Xia time to interface, he quickly changed the topic. "I asked about Zhou because his brother Zhou Hai is Ouyuji's boyfriend." Although the teacher Tongzi paused, Chu Xia was smart enough not to answer. Her intuition told her that when the teacher Tongzi asked Zhou, he would never explain in a roundabout way just because he was worried that she would make Ouyuji jealous. Thinking she is stupid, he digs a hole and she really jumps. Jo Mikang's chuckle came from the other end of the phone. "I'm looking down on you. Yes, you have made progress and deserve praise." Chu Xia rolled her eyes and interrupted him. "Let's get down to business. Is this being disliked?" After straightening his expression, the division commander Tongzi finally got to the point. "I'll give you a task to get to know his brother Zhou Hai through Zhou." "Why?" Chu Xia regretted asking the question reflexively. How stupid was she? Couldn't she just calm down and wait for the teacher, Tongzi, to explain herself? Sure enough, Jo Mikang's chuckle came over again. "Are you fooled this time? How boring are you?" Chu Xia couldn't make him proud, so she snorted coldly. "Just say what you want to say. If you don't say anything, I'll hang up the phone." Jo Mikang had a dark streak. He was just teasing her because he was worried that she would be bored, but he had such an attitude that he would not pay attention to others begging him to tease him. Sure enough, one thing is worth another. After Jo Mikang revealed that Zhou Hai's current girlfriend was Yamiru and that Yamiru had a bet with Ouyuji, Chu Xia was silent. Was Zhou Hai's mind blinded by shit? Okay, it's unladylike to say bad words, but she really couldn't be a lady at this time. What's there to find out about such a man? He's definitely not a good guy, she said in a gloomy voice. Let's do Minister Ou a favor. After sighing, Jo Mikang persuaded his young wife. Minister Ou is quite a good person. Ouyuji is the best. If he doesn't care about it, he might really ruin such a genius. It's quite a pity. Didn't you remind her? Chu Xia asked. How should I remind you? You said that the man you like is not good and you want to find another one. Jo Mikang snorted coldly. Do I think he didn't think too much and sent me here on purpose? Chu Xia had a dark streak. Well, she thought too simply, but before she could finish her self-reflection, the teacher Tuangzi continued, it's not that I didn't remind him, but I made a workaround. Even after telling Yamiru's past deeds to her, no matter how stupid she is, she can understand that a man who still wants to be with a woman knowing that she has bad deeds is probably not in his right mind. Chu Xia couldn't help but burst out, you were not normal before, right? She didn't accuse him unjustly. When he first knew about Yamiru's bad deeds, didn't he still stay with her? Is this the same thing? Before the teacher could get angry, Chu Xia quickly admitted her mistake. I was wrong. I was wrong. It was just a joke. Don't take it seriously. Then how did she react after you told her? She said she knew Yamiru was that kind of person, so she must rescue Zohei from Yamiru. Early summer. Yes, I thought I would understand as long as I'm not stupid, but it turns out that she is an exception, or maybe her superior judgment in military affairs has preempted her judgment in love. Seeing that Minister OU attaches so much importance to this daughter, I decided to help her. I have sent a special person to investigate this matter, but I still hope to hear a different conclusion from you. What different conclusion do you want to hear? Chusia asked her. In other words, do you want Zohei to be excellent or do you want Zohei to be trash? I hope he is like Oug. His talent preempts his judgment on love. What talent does he have? Talented in biology, he is completely self-taught. Now he has joined the research group. He is the youngest, but he is the leader. He and Huang Xinlong were best friends. It's not like you shouldn't bully your friends' wives. What does he think? Chu Xia couldn't help but whisper, just because of this, he's not a good person. His personality is a bit withdrawn, and his colleagues in the research team all admire him, because under his leadership, a major breakthrough was made in just 3 months on a project that was originally in vain. In this regard, he is indeed a genius. It is also because of these findings that I hope to have a deeper understanding of what he is like. In any case, such talents are extremely useful to the country. We cannot just watch him be destroyed in the hands of Yamiru. Right? Although the teacher Tong's words were clear and logical, Chu Xia suddenly understood. Zhou Mikang, have you ever suspected that Yamiru arranged for Zhou Zhang to come here? Sure enough, my wife is the smartest in the world. After it was revealed, Zhou Mikang stopped hiding it. It's better to be cautious. I don't want a time bomb to be planted around you. They will search quietly in Zhuojiang and will never let him have any objects on his body that can hurt you. You just ask him truthfully and let them judge the rest. Chu Xia nodded. I understand, I'm a guinea pig. Okay, you can call yourself that if you want. I have no objection. Zhou Mixang chuckled and warned, don't let your parents know and worry again. Chu Xia couldn't help rolling her eyes. I'm not stupid. You said it yourself that you were pregnant for 3 years, and you asked me to remind you of something. Why did you start to blame me in the blink of an eye? Chu Xia. That's too bullying, isn't it? Since enrolling in school, Chu Xia and Zhou Zhang really haven't spoken alone. At most, they just nodded when they met. Under such circumstances, it was really difficult for her to find a chance to be alone with each other. She couldn't find a suitable opportunity all morning, and she couldn't help but feel a little anxious. During class in the afternoon, she glanced at Zhou Zhang intentionally or unintentionally, hoping to find something suspicious. Probably sensing her gaze, Zhou Zhang turned to look at her, his eyes full of doubts. Chu Xia smiled at him. Unconsciously smiling back, Zhou Zhang quickly turned his head back, his eyes full of astonishment. Among the girls in the class, only Lin Chuxia never looked at him. What happened today? His eyes are very clear and his smile is very comfortable. He probably doesn't have any bad intentions, right? Otherwise, the camouflage ability is too strong. Moreover, at this age, one shouldn't have such a strong ability to disguise, right? Suddenly, Lin Menjai, who was sitting behind Zhou Zhang, turned around and smiled at her, his eyes full of mockery. Chu Xia secretly rolled her eyes. Everyone saw that Lin Menjai was chasing Zhou Zhang. Lin Mengran even asked them to study the matter alone, but in the end they didn't understand what Lin Menjai was thinking. At first, they thought she was here to tear down Lin Mengrantai, but it turned out that apart from a few arguments at the beginning, the two sisters had no interaction at all after that. According to Lin Mengran's description of her character, it was not surprising that she was so calm. However, after she officially chased Zhou Zhang, everyone was confused. She wanted Zhou Qian to persuade Zhou's elders to help her. Now it has been confirmed that Zhou Qian and Zhou Zhang are not related in any way, so where is she playing? With such a real slap in the eye, no matter how kind Zhou Qian's character is, no matter how broad-minded he is, he can't continue to help her, right? Or should we find out Zhou Jiang's true identity at this time, and the mystery will be solved? In an instant, Chu Xia was a little excited. It was great to be able to take care of Yamiru and help a good friend. It was so great to kill two birds with one stone, wasn't it? What are you thinking about? Yang Xiaoli, who was sitting next to her, couldn't help but poke her lightly. I see you smiling at one moment and frowning and staring at the other. Don't scare people, okay? I'll tell you after class. Yang Xiaoli responded, sat upright and continued to look like she was listening to the class seriously. To be honest, the lectures during this period were too shallow. It was really hard for them to look like they were listening to the class seriously. Seeing the teacher looking over at them, Chu Xia quickly sat upright. She no longer had any relationship with her classmates, but don't lose her relationship with her as a teacher. Smart children can't afford to get hurt. This section is an ideological and political class. The teacher in charge of this class is called Li Siyu. She dislikes these people in Chu Xia very much. She doesn't know how to ask questions proactively and her attitude in listening to the class is not serious enough. Students are the most annoying. Lin Chuxia. Arrive. Chu Xia had no choice but to stand up, and the teacher called her name. She would be in trouble if she sat there like that. Repeat what I just said. When Li Siyu finished speaking, Yang Xiaoli's hand had already pointed to a certain location. Chu Xia glanced at it from the corner of her eyes and read to her textbook. I asked you to retell it, not recite it aloud. Li Siyu frowned and interrupted her. Those who have to be chased by teachers to study hard are elementary school students, right? It was indeed his fault. Chu Xia looked at Li Siyu seriously and said yes. Sit down, 1 carrot and 1 pit. You have to be worthy of the position you sit in. Obviously, this was implying that she was not admitted through recruitment. Chu Xia frowned slightly. Why did she feel that the teacher was particularly disgusted with her? I hope she is overthinking it. Next, he no longer dared to lose his mind and sat down seriously until the end of get out of class. Rs. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 822. 1 Update. Lin Chuxia, come to the office after class. Li Siyu said this expressionlessly and left in stride. In an instant, countless pairs of eyes looked at Chu Xia with contempt, sympathy, numbness, and gloating. People of this era may think it is extremely embarrassing to be called to the office by the teacher, but to Chu Xia, it doesn't matter at all. Therefore, she completely ignored the eyes staring at her and walked out of the classroom briskly. The 4 members of the group quickly followed. The moment the figures disappeared from the door, the classroom exploded with discussion. Looking at her like that, people who don't know it thought she was being praised. How can someone be so thick-skinned? It's really a disgrace to us college students. That's right, if you don't know better, you'd think this is a primary school class. Hey, if you don't cherish such a good opportunity, I really don't know what she's thinking. Maybe she knows it all, or maybe she got distracted when she encountered some difficulty. What can happen to her? School has just started. I heard that her parents are here with her. As for saying that she has learned everything, I don't believe it. If you have the ability, you can take the exam. You need to be admitted under special conditions. Her parents are really here to accompany her to school. Yes, many people say that. How can it be false? This is too pampering. At such an old age, parents are still allowed to go to school with them. Such a person can also be a doctor. Is it possible that when he works in the future, he will have to take his parents to the operating table? Ha ha ha, That's a scene, isn't it? Zhejiang glanced at the squad leader Li Xinlu and found that there was a smile on the corner of his lips. He seemed to be very happy with everyone's discussion. He frowned. He was so small-minded, could he still be considered a man? Everyone can see that Li Xinlu wants to pursue Li Xinlai. I can also understand his thoughts. He is not young, so his family must be anxious and seize the time to solve personal problems. It can also put your family at ease. His thoughts were right, but his approach was a bit unethical. As soon as he entered school, he used the little power he had as the class president to solve personal problems. To put it bluntly, it was simply despicable. But Li Xinlai spent most of her time with Lin Chuxia, which made Li Xinlu less likely to have contact with Li Xinlai. Therefore, his dissatisfaction with Lin Chuxia was clearly written on his face. Zhejiang couldn't stand his behavior. He would chase the girl he liked if he had the ability. What's the point of being disrespectful to the people around you? Of course, if he knew that Li Xinlu confessed his love to Chu Xia first and was rejected so simply and completely, he would probably understand what he was thinking at this moment. Listening to everyone's discussion becoming more and more outrageous, Zhejiang stood up. He walked straight onto the podium, tapped the blackboard eraser on the table, and everyone's attention was drawn to him. Since you know that you are a college student, and you feel that it is a great honor to be a college student, you should make yourself worthy of this title, and don't end up talking about people behind their backs like an uneducated gossip. The girls all had an inexplicable fondness for Zhejiang, even though what he said didn't suit them. But they won't really refute him, no one wants to leave a bad impression in his mind. That's how people are, even if they know it's impossible for them to be with each other, they still have hope, just in case, everything has a chance. But boys are different. Most boys have an instinctive rejection of Zhejiang, and girls' attention is stolen by Zhejiang. It's strange that they don't reject it. Therefore, at this moment, there were a few people who curled their lips and rolled their eyes because they thought Zhejiang was nosy. After glancing at a few people, Zhejiang turned around and left the classroom. What are you dragging? That's right, the squad leader hasn't spoken yet. A boy looked at Li Xinlu, who was sitting silently, and said, Squad monitor. Even if this matter really needs to be taken care of, you should take charge of it. What does he mean by usurping power? Another chimed in, what a bully. You can't say that. Li Xinlu stood up and looked at the two boys who were making the most noise. Zhejiang is right, if our class's reputation becomes bad, everyone will look bad. It's my fault. I didn't think about it at all. I don't think so. I can't just let others say it, right? I apologize to everyone and assure you that I will serve you wholeheartedly in the future. The squad leader is the squad leader, and this awareness is high. That's right. The class monitor still had some power, so most of the students took advantage of this opportunity and began to send all kinds of kind words to everyone. A faint smile appeared on Lin Menjai's lips, got up, and went out to find Zhejiang. At this time, Chu Xia was standing opposite Li Siyu, listening to the other party's ideological education to her. A girl's appearance will fade with age, but her knowledge will not. A truly respected girl will inevitably he has both ability and political integrity. Of course, I'm not saying that you have no talent or virtue, I just want to remind you that you can't ignore some of the most important things just because you are good looking. There are rigid targets for students who are admitted under exceptional circumstances. You are the only exception. Take a look. She opened a folder beside the table and handed it to Chu Xia. This is Lin Menjai's exceptional admission information. Take a look. After taking it and glancing at it, Chu Xia immediately understood. No wonder Lin Menjai was so valued by the Lin family. If it were placed in future generations, he would be a top academic figure. Moreover, she is still very characterful. She had 2 opportunities to be recommended to college before, but she did not accept it, which further proves that there is something wrong with her coming here this time. Li Siyu, who had been staring at Chu Xia, saw that her expression finally changed. He thought that his stimulation had worked, so he asked, "How is it? How do you feel? You are also a recommended student, look at others, and then look at yourself, are you ashamed?" Putting down the folder, Chu Xia looked at her seriously, "I will work hard." "What's your attitude?" Li Siyu frowned, "I've been saying it for a long time, but you haven't heard a single word, right?" Teacher Li Chu Xia's expression also faded, "I admit that it was my fault that I was distracted in class today. However, are you too arbitrary to reject me because of this?" "Really?" Li Siyu's lips curved into a sarcastic smile, "then what do you think I can do to not be arbitrary? I want to know where I offended you." Chu Xia stared straight at her, "I don't know who you are venting your anger on, and I don't want to know, but I want to tell you that my patience has limits. You should know that I am an expectant mother who is more than 2 months pregnant. You called me over and asked me to stand here and lectured me for half an hour. What were you going to do? If I were a naive primary school student, you would understand it? If I did something seriously wrong, I would understand it? But none of these assumptions exist. Therefore, your behavior can only explain one problem. You hate me, and you hate me extremely. Originally, I was not going to tell you. However, now that I have changed my mind, why should I wrong myself for some people who don't know what they mean? If you are helping Lin Menjai, then I suggest you think about it carefully." A sarcastic smile appeared on Chu Xia's lips, "If something happens to me, will the Zhou family let you go? Will the Lin family in Beijing let you go? You can say that I'm threatening you. I'm a threat. Let's figure it out. You." She didn't expect that Chu Xia would fall out as soon as she said she was going to fall out. Li Siyu was so angry that her face turned red, but she knew in her heart that what the other party said was exactly what she was afraid of. If the Zhou family and the Lin family dealt with her, then she would not be the one to take action. A university teacher probably can't even be considered an ordinary worker. But you may have your difficulties, but... After a pause, Chu Xia continued, "You said you hope I can be worthy of the position I occupy. I give you the same words, hoping you can be worthy of the position you occupy. What's your attitude?" Li Siyu had almost suppressed the fire in his heart, and looked at her with a stern face. "If you can't accept the criticism, you don't say anything, and you even threaten the teacher with some nonsense reasons. I can't teach such a crazy student. Okay, you can go out, I will report this to the principal." "Okay," Chu Xia responded and really turned around and walked out. "Wait a minute," Li Siyu's face turned completely black. She thought that if she said this, the other party would beg her for a few words, and then she could borrow Poxy a donkey, but she didn't expect that he would just leave if he said so. "Let's go," so happy that he doesn't even give her time to think. "Teacher Li, do you have any other instructions?" "Forget it." Li Siyu waved her hand, "You have just entered school, and your classmates' evaluation of you was not good. If you are transferred again, you probably won't be able to stay in school anymore. Forget it, I won't argue with you this time, I hope there won't be a next time." Chu Xia nodded, "Yes, I hope there won't be a next time." Li Siyu: "I was threatened again, why are there such students?" After Zhou came out of the classroom, he went to the playground. He stood under the basketball hoop and stared at the white clouds floating in the clear sky. His mood finally improved. Now he is even doubting whether his decision is right. If he had known it was like this, he would not be here. Anyway, so far, he is very disappointed with everything: teachers, students, the school's atmosphere, etc. Not what he wanted. "They're talking about you." Listening to the familiar female voice, Zhou frowned again. Wouldn't he put others in a good mood? He turned to look at Lin Menjai, I know it without you having to tell me. I don't care. Don't care, Lin Menjai raised his eyebrows. Don't care why your face turned black. Don't care why you ran out. Don't tell me that you like Lin Chuxia. She is a married woman. I don't think you do. Don't you know? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 823. Second update. Can you put away your dirty thoughts? Zhou looked at Lin Menjai with disgust. Do you think everyone is like you, eating from the bowl and looking at the pot? Are you jealous? Lin Menjai's eyebrows were filled with a smile. I'm very happy that you are finally willing to face yourself. This is right. Just say what you think. How can others know what you are thinking if you don't say it? Right. Don't be sentimental, okay, Zhou sighed heavily. I'll stress it again, if I don't like you, I just don't like you. No matter what you do, I will never like you. Please stay away from me in the future. May I? Zhou. The smile on Lin Menjai's face faded. In my entire life, no one has ever done this to me. In my entire life, I have never wronged myself so much for anyone. Zhou interrupted her. I've made it very clear. Your tricks are of no use to me. I don't have time to listen to your wordy words. After saying that, he turned around and left. Lin Menjai gritted his teeth and yelled at his back, do you think Zhou will be accepted by the Zhou family if you hide here? You idiot coward. I look down on you. Zhou paused in his steps and looked back at her with a stern expression. I also warn you, if I find you messing around in this matter, don't blame me for being rude. If I told you that you and Zhou Qian are actually cousins, would you believe it? Lin Menjai took a few steps forward and stared at him. If I really like Zhou Qian, do you think I would come looking for you? No matter which Zhou family, as long as they are willing to support me. The head of the Lin family will definitely be me, if I am really like you think. He is a despicable person who wants to obtain the status of the head of his family by any means necessary. Do you think I'd be standing here right now? You don't have to like me, but please don't insult my love. This is the first time I have really fallen in love with a man in my life. Even I find it strange. We only met once. Why do I fall in love with him so much? Want to be with you? I had 2 chances to walk, and I gave up both times. Why do you want to come here this time? I believe you know all this, right? Even if you don't like it, you can't just ignore it, right? Also, can you take off your colored glasses and get to know me seriously? If the two of us are together, both the Zhou family and the Lin family will be happy to see each other, and in the end, the Zhou family and the Lin family will definitely be able to reach a higher level. I am the most suitable person for you. I don't believe that as a man, you have no idea of carrying forward the Zhou family. The opportunity is presented to you, don't seize it. You are not a man. A smile suddenly appeared on Zhou Jiang's lips. Come to the medical university. Is it really for me? Certainly. Draft before you speak. Zhou Jiang looked at her mockingly. You think I don't know about the fight between you and Lin Mengran? You are sisters. You really feel a little ashamed for doing this? Nothing. What have I done? What should I be ashamed of? If she is better than me and more suitable than me, I will never argue with her. Those who support her are just looking for a family head who is easy to control. Let yourself get more just the interests. If I really let things develop, I will be irresponsible to the Lin family. I would like to ask you. Lin Menjai looked at him aggressively. If you know that others are now supporting your brother as the head of the family, the purpose is to destroy the Zhou family. What will you do if you have control? You are really funny. When you are the head of the family, you are to carry forward the Lin family. When Lin Mengran is the head of the family, you are to hand over the Lin family to others. Let me ask you, even if your uncles, aunts, and uncles are outsiders in your eyes, so your uncle, your aunt, and your grandfather are also outsiders. Why don't you reflect on why the people who originally supported you suddenly changed their decision, and why even your mother and grandma, who have always regarded you as their life, hesitated? Does it seem to you that they are all deceived now, and you are the only one who understands? After a pause, Zhou said, "Now let me answer your question just now. If someone really tries to harm the Zhou family, I will not let him succeed even at the risk of my life. However, if the elders unanimously decide that it is appropriate for my brother to take charge of this family, then what I have to do is to be by his side and work with him to carry forward the Zhou family." I know, from your point of view, you want to laugh at me. This is a high-profile statement. That's right. People like you can't understand these things. Why should I talk to you? Shaking his head, Zhou turned around again. What I just said is true. Zhou Qian is your cousin. The two Zhou are originally one Zhou. It was because of the fighting between the brothers that they were divided into two families. Moreover, they never mentioned it to outsiders, so you are the juniors. I don't know. Who says juniors don't know? Zhou looked back at her. Do you think if I didn't know that I wouldn't have reacted when you dropped the news just now? Lin Menjai's eyes widened instantly. You, know. Certainly. But Zhou Qian doesn't know. My eldest brother doesn't know either. Zhou sighed, turned around and looked at her seriously. Originally I didn't want to tell you anything, but for the sake of the friendship between the two families, I would like to advise you, don't always think about taking advantage of this or that. If you treat others sincerely, you will definitely get the rewards you deserve. If you are always thinking about returning benefits, then there will be fewer and fewer relatives and friends around you. Don't tell me that you don't envy your sister for having so many friends, and don't tell me that you don't envy that your sister is getting recognized by her relatives step by step. It's useless to be busy with envy and jealousy. Finding the root cause and changing yourself is the most important thing. Zhou left for a long time before Lin Menjai came back to her senses. The other party had indeed touched her sore spot. When she was young, she was the darling of the family. She was smart, sweet-mouthed, and good-looking. No one disliked such a child, except of course children of the same sex. Therefore, she had no good friends of the same sex since she was a child. However, she didn't care about this at that time. As long as the elders cared and recognized her, it was enough. Girls of the same age thought they were naive, so she didn't bother to play with them. Seeing her sister hanging out with Chu Xiaojing every day, regardless of master or servant, she looked down upon her. The master is the master, and the servant is the servant. The common people don't understand that it's okay. If a big family like theirs doesn't have rules, there will be no rules. But at some point, she began to envy her sister for having someone she could confide in. Like her, she could only keep everything in her heart because she knew that no matter who she told, no one would keep it a secret for her. After learning the news of Chu Xiaojing's death, she felt faint joy in her heart. She also knew that this mentality was wrong, but she couldn't control it, but she was in a good mood. Coming to the medical university is indeed not just for Zhou. Of course, Zhou did play a role in making her decide. As for the matter of two lefts being one, she accidentally heard it from her grandma. At that time, her grandma was on the phone with Zhou Qian's grandfather, and she broke in. Afterwards, her grandma asked her to keep the matter a secret, and she agreed. At the same time, she also pestered her to tell her about the two lefts. Only then did she know that the two lefts separated during the Republic of China. No wonder everyone didn't got this. As time goes by, and the two families deliberately keep it secret, fewer and fewer people know about it, so it naturally becomes a real secret. She and Zhejiang met at a gathering of middle school classmates. She liked Zhejiang's appearance very much, but she would not give up her future just for one person's appearance. Therefore, she deliberately checked Zhejiang's identity after that party. As a result, she unexpectedly discovered that the Zhou of Zhejiang's family was developing better than the Zhou of Zheqian's family. Her mind naturally got active, and she took the initiative to write a letter to Zhejiang. Unfortunately, he didn't reply to her even a word. Later, she took the initiative to visit Zhejiang, and he was also indifferent to her. Just when she was thinking about how to get close to the other party, she learned that the other party was admitted to the medical university. Then, the notice from my sister also arrived, and she also went to the medical university. After hesitating for a few days, she finally made up her mind on the day her sister left for school. Rights are very important to her, but love is also very important to her. It would be the best thing to get both love and power. Now, this is an opportunity, and she can't miss it. Grandma originally disagreed with her coming to the medical university, but she had no choice but to move Zhejiang out. Grandma and Grandpa have a very good relationship, and they have always been warned that they must find someone they get along with for the rest of their lives, otherwise nothing will go smoothly. To be honest, what she said to her grandma used to go in one ear and out the other, but now it became her life-saving straw, and the old lady happily agreed to her. He also told her clearly that as long as she and Zhejiang could get together, the Lin family would be left to her. This is equivalent to telling her clearly that the old lady prefers the Zhou family in Zhejiang. With the old lady's character, it would definitely not be because of financial strength. She couldn't think of the specific reason, and of course she wouldn't ask stupidly. She believed that one day she would know. She had always thought that with her looks, temperament, and knowledge, it would not be difficult for Zhejiang to fall in love with her, but she never expected that her pursuit would be to hit obstacles and be humiliated again and again. The other party said something so decisive today. It would be too shameful for her to pursue him shamelessly. However, it would definitely not be her character to give up. Otherwise, what's the point of her coming to the medical university? Is it really because you want to be a doctor? Joke. When she thought about the girls around her sister Lin Mengran, she became even more angry. Why, without Chu Xiaojing, would there be such a mess of people again? However, it seems that those people treat Lin Chuxia better, so. To be continued. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 824. Third update. Why are you looking for me? Lin Mengran frowned and looked at Lin Menjai with an impatient look on her face. The other party stopped her on the road and said that he wanted to see her for something. She really couldn't think of anything good he could do if he came to her. I want to remind you, don't embarrass the Lin family. Lin Menjai looked at her lightly. After all, she is also one of the candidates for the head of the Lin family. It's embarrassing for you to be a maid all day long, but it's embarrassing for me too. Lin Mengran looked at her for a few times, then a smile appeared on his lips. Are you jealous of me? Why, do you feel uncomfortable seeing that I have so many good friends? Would I be jealous of you? Can you look at yourself in the mirror before you speak? Lin Menjai rolled her eyes at her. Why don't I like you? Aren't you hating iron for not being able to become steel? Do we, the Lin family, need to come out and look up to others? If Lin Chuxia really regarded you as a friend, what would be her attitude towards you? Of course, you may not listen to what I say, then you can ask other students and see what they think of the relationship between you and Lin Chuxia. I don't know, but I thought you were trying to please her just for the sake of stuttering. If our Lin family wants our children to enjoy it, we can't buy many houses here. Do we need to go to other people's houses for food? Do you really think she is good like this? If you marry into a good family, you will really consider yourself a young mistress. Now you are young and good looking, but in 2 years, after giving birth to a child, you will see what her status is in the family. I tell you this to fulfill my responsibility as a sister. I don't want you to learn from her one day. When you really regret it, it will be too late. Do you understand? Don't be ignorant all day long. Have you finished? Lin Mengran looked at her with a smile. We are only 2 years apart, and we have grown up together with you. Do you really think I don't know your temper? However, your performance today makes me very happy. Well, I have to be grateful, right? As he said this, he bowed seriously. Sister, thank you for making me so happy, thank you very much. Lin Menjai waved his hand at her in disgust. Forget it, if you can't listen, one day you will understand who is really good to you. Sisters break their heads. They are also relatives with blood ties. If something happens to them, when the time comes, you see who will take care of you. Okay, I'll take a look. Lin Mengran blinked at her. Is there anything else? I'll go back if there's nothing else. Lin Menjai felt like there was a fire in his heart. He glared at his sister fiercely and strode away. Curling her lips, Lin Mengran also walked back. This day. It was destined to be Lin Menjai's catastrophic day. Before the fire subsided, Li Siyu came to find her. Xiao, I really want to help you, but my ability only ends here. If I continue to help, I might have to do it myself. Destroyed, I will definitely repay the debt I owe you, but I can't do it in this destructive way, so please forgive me. Lin Menjai frowned and looked at her. I just want you to find her faults and make trouble for her. What's so difficult? You are the teacher and she is the student. It is natural for students to make mistakes and be punished by the teacher. Why did they ruin you? You think too simply. This time, she has already guessed it, and gritting her teeth, Li Siyu still didn't dare to tell her about Chu Xia's pregnancy. The leader had specifically told her to tell the teacher about it. We are here to let them know what is going on and avoid any surprises, but we must not spread the news privately. To put it bluntly, it is simply inappropriate to recruit a student who knows she is pregnant. This is the fundamental reason why Li Siyu is willing to help Lin Menjai. She especially doesn't like this kind of violation of principles based on her family background. As student. And in her opinion, if this opportunity is given to a girl who is not married and not pregnant, she can get another talent. If she, Lin Chuxia, really doesn't want to miss the opportunity, she can just sit in and wait until everything is stable after the birth. The same goes for coming to university for further studies. And what? Lin Menjai saw Li Siyu standing there in a daze but did not say anything, so he asked, if you have anything, just tell me directly and don't hesitate, okay? It's okay. Li Siyu looked at her and felt a sense of boredom in her heart. Indeed, her mother's life was saved with her help, but there was no need to talk to her as if she was talking to her every time. Do domestic servants speak the same way? Li Siyu, this is boring. Lin Menjai leaned back and looked at her leisurely. Even if I save a dog, it still knows how to be grateful. I've done everything I can do, but there's really nothing I can do. If you think I'm worse than a dog, then so be it. Li Siyu's heart crossed and she spoke her thoughts truthfully. Just because I'm grateful doesn't mean I'm inferior to a dog. Fool, my mother took your car, and later we gave her money and gifts. Okay, even if I'm blind, even if your mother dies in front of me next time, I won't send her to the hospital. Lin Menjai smiled faintly. I think I should talk to Wang Yume. Li Siyu felt a stream of blood rush to his forehead, and his face turned red instantly. You, what do you mean? What do you think? Lin Menjai smiled at her. People are all utilitarian. Whoever can help me is the one I will turn to. If she doesn't help me, why should I protect her? Besides, I know the truth, but I just watch the person who was deceived still feel grateful for the person who deceived me. I can't stand the condemnation of my conscience. In order to relieve myself, I'd better talk to her. I really have no choice. Li Siyu stood up hurriedly and grabbed her. Believe me, I will definitely help you as long as there is a chance. Do you want to do this with me? Lin Menjai snorted coldly. It's too late. I've already given you the opportunity, but you don't cherish it. So, what's the use of me keeping you now? I'll help you. Li Siyu closed her eyes and emphasized again, I'll help you. That's more or less. Lin Menjai's lips curved into a smile. I don't like any of them. They think they are the savior. They just reach out randomly without understanding the situation, especially Lin Chuxia. If it weren't for her, I would do you need to go to such trouble. Yes, if they hadn't taken a fancy to the power of the Zhou family and the Lin family in Beijing, would my grandfather and uncle and aunt have such thoughts? How can grandma and mother sway? In fact, she felt that all the elders were really confused. If they really wanted to find a powerful and capable man to be the son-in-law of the Lin family, would they dedicate the Lin family as their own home? Look at Dad and Uncle, aren't they just an example? Dad listens to Mom on everything and thinks of the Lin family in everything, just because Grandma's family is an ordinary family. But what about my uncle? When did you not put the interests of the Hu family first? At this moment, she completely ignored why she didn't find an ordinary man from an ordinary family. I will help to the end. Li Siyu looked at her with a serious look on his face, but you also have to promise me one thing, otherwise, I will resign immediately and go find Wang Yumei myself. Lin Menjai raised his eyebrows. You want me not to tell Wang Yumei what happened to you, right? Biting her lip, Li Siyu looked at her. I didn't mean to betray her. The situation in my family at that time forced me to do that. If I were given another chance, I would definitely not make this choice. What's the use of saying these nice things? Lin Menjai's eyes were full of ridicule. Do you think I will believe it? Neither you nor I have a noble personality, so don't deceive yourself. It's boring. Li Siyu was so choked that she couldn't say a word. Yes, everything had been done, and it was useless to say anything now. Although she regretted it, and although she was afraid of losing her friends, when faced with a choice again, can you really refuse the temptation? She is now a university teacher that everyone envies. Wang Yumei is still an ordinary female worker. In the future, their futures will be even more different. You may have forgotten something. If you resign now, or I go find Wang Yumei, the matter between you and Su Mingjia will probably come to an end. Are you willing to do so? You. Yes, you can't hide anything from me. Since I have chosen to cooperate with you, I can't know anything about you, right? Lin Menjai shrugged. Originally I didn't want to say it, but, judging from your appearance, it seems that you have more luck, so it's better to let you know. After coming out of Li Siyu's office, Lin Menjai was in an inexplicably better mood. Or could he feel better by making others more unhappy? Naturally, Lin Mengran didn't hide what Lin Menjai was talking about with her friends. Therefore, when they saw Lin Menjai entering the classroom with a smile on his face, inexplicable disgust surged in their hearts. The first enrollment after so many years is also to test the teaching level of the teachers. For the time being, the class habits are the same as those in middle school. This also determines that most of the time, students in the same class have to sit in together. You can't avoid it even if you want to. Therefore, no matter how much we hate it, we still have to meet each other every day, or even avoid it. After the day's class, Chu Xia didn't find a chance to chat with Zhou. After thinking about it, she simply gave up. The people on Zhou Mikang's side must have found out the results, and there was no one on her side anyway. She should stop creating topics for her classmates. Unexpectedly, when she and Lin Mengran were walking halfway, they met Zhou, and looking at him, it was obvious that he intended to wait for them here. I have something to do with Lin Mengran. Seeing the surprise on their faces, Zhou took the initiative to explain, I was afraid of causing unnecessary trouble at school, so I came out to wait for you. He scratched his head in embarrassment. Scratching his head, I heard it when you were discussing. He was talking about everyone discussing who would accompany Chusia home today. Ours. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan Nuan. Chapter 825. Second update. As soon as Zhou said he was looking for her, Lin Mengran's face turned red to her ears. She didn't dare to look at him. She lowered her head and asked in a low voice, "Why are you looking for me?" Zhou glanced at Chusia and hesitated to speak. "Oh." Chusia waved her hands knowingly, took 2 steps forward, and then looked back. "Zhou, it's so cold outside, how about, you guys come to my house to chat? I happen to have something to do with you." After a slight hesitation, Zhou came down. Lin Mengran secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Whenever she thought about the last time she went to the wrong toilet and was met by Zhou, she was so embarrassed that she didn't even dare to look at Zhou during this period, let alone chase him. The other party took the initiative to come over, and she couldn't bear to refuse, but she was scared and panicked about the two of them being alone together. She was at a loss, so Chusia finally saved her. After arriving home, I greeted all the elders and arranged Zhou and Lin Mengran to the West Wing in early summer. The boy is quite good looking and has a good personality. "Is he the one for Xiaoran?" Zhao Yulan asked curiously when her daughter came back and sat next to her. "Not yet." Chusia looked at Zhao Yulan funny. "Mom, do you also like to worry so much?" "I like what Xiaoran just asked. If it's nothing to do with us, Mother won't worry about it." As Zhao Yulan spoke, she reached out to try her daughter's little hand and ordered, "Go and put on some more clothes." "I'm not cold." Chusia looked at her mother helplessly. "Mom, do you have to look at my hot head and sweat profusely to think that it's not cold? This hand is cold, not cold yet." Zhao Yulan said as she greeted Lin Baohe, "Come over and try to see if it's me who is nosy or my daughter who is ignorant." Lin Baohe obediently reached out to test the temperature of his daughter's hand, and smiled at his wife. "Yulan, I can't go to you this time, you are really nosy." Zhao Yulan. Looking at my mother who was staring at her father in a funny way, Chusia moved to sit next to Mr. Wan and said, "Grandpa, have you seen that my mother is acting coquettishly with my father?" Ye Wanlao nodded, "Very good." Chusia quickly agreed, "I think so too. It means they have a good relationship." There. When Lin Baohe heard the conversation between his grandfather and grandson, he chuckled and patted his head. "Yulan, it's not that I don't care about you, I also know that you feel sorry for Xia, but the day is getting warmer and warmer. If the child doesn't want to wear so many clothes, don't. If you force her, she will become a mother. How can she not love her child, right?" Zhao Yulan rolled her eyes at him. "I don't want to talk to you." After saying that, he stood up and went to the kitchen. Lin Baohe smiled and sat next to his daughter. "Xia, wear more clothes. Spring cover and autumn cold are good for your health." "Okay, I'll wear more clothes tomorrow." "It's not a matter of principle. It should be done in early summer. A man who is afraid of his wife is not really afraid of his wife, but he loves his wife. She is happy that her father loves her so much. Now, let's follow mother's wishes and make mother happy. When mother is happy, father will be happy. When both parents are happy, she will be happy." Unexpectedly, his daughter agreed so happily. Lin Baohe was stunned and couldn't help but sigh. My daughter still knows that she loves her father. Zhao Yulan came out with a bowl of yam soup and put it in front of Chusia. "I've been stewing this for 2 hours. It tastes good. Drink it while it's hot." She glared at her husband and said, "It's not your fault. Go and bring it to Uncle Wan." Lin Baohe. "Why are you so petty? Hey, did this person's temperament change when he moved to another place? My wife used to not get angry when she was in her hometown, but now she seems to get angry easily. Dad, have you made your mother angry recently? Chu Xia leaned over to Lin Baohe and asked in a low voice. No, Lin Baohe shook his head, with a puzzled look on his face. I can't figure it out either. Your mother got angry at me several times today. If you don't believe me, ask Grandpa. I really didn't lie to you. Mr. Wan nodded and lowered his voice. Your mother's temper fluctuated a bit today. I've never seen her in such a bad mood before. Chu Xia nodded. There must be something wrong. I'll ask my mother later. Zhao Yulan brought out another bowl of yam soup and handed it to Wan Lao. As expected, Lin Yu didn't share it. Mom. Chu Xia looked at Zhao Yulan and asked cautiously, are you angry with me or Dad? No. Impossible. Chu Xia stared at her. Mom is not such a petty person. There must be a reason for being so abnormal today. Tell me, I am your daughter. After a moment of silence, Zhao Yulan said, ask your father. Chu Xia looked at Lin Baohe and saw her father's blank face. Father. I was thinking, but I couldn't figure it out. Lin Baohe looked at his wife with a bitter face. Yulan, just tell me what's wrong. We have been husband and wife for so many years, and we have never played riddles like this. What are you doing? Already? I won't tell. How do I know if you don't tell me? Think about it carefully. Zhao Yulan snorted coldly. You have a wife and children. I have no objection to helping others, but what do you mean by helping behind our backs? Chu Xia quickly looked at Lin Baohe. Dad, who did you help? Lin Baohe's face turned red instantly. Yulan, you know. Nonsense, you didn't know I could be angry. Zhao Yulan frowned tightly. If I was a narrow-minded person, I would admit it if you hid it from me like this, but since we got married, when have I ever doubted you? You pat your conscience and ask yourself if this is appropriate. I didn't mean to hide it from you, but, I just felt that such a trivial matter was not worth mentioning, so I kept silent. Really, Zhao Yulan sneered, if it's really like what you think, you would have known who I was talking about and what I was talking about when I said it just now. After listening for a long time, Chu Xia didn't understand what was going on, so she became a little anxious. Dad, Mom, stop playing riddles. Tell me what is going on. Grandpa and I will comment on it for you, okay? Actually, I followed you to school every morning. Every time I watched you enter the school before leaving. The day before yesterday, when I turned around and was about to leave, someone grabbed my sleeve and called my name. I looked back and saw that she was from our hometown. Her son also came to the capital to go to university, but it was in University B. In order to take care of her son, she stayed here like me and your mother. She didn't find any good work, so she made some money by delivering briquettes to people. I saw that she was a woman and it was quite hard to do that, so I introduced her to do manual work. After taking the work, she stood there in a daze, so I asked her why she didn't leave. She said she lived in a small alley next to her son's school, and she kept her luggage with her son during the day. I talked to the director of the factory who sent out work. After some discussion, she was allowed to live in the warehouse of the factory. Then, I didn't care about anything else. I came back and wanted to tell your mother, but after thinking about it, I felt that with her enthusiasm, she knew that she would worry about this and that for others, so I simply didn't say anything. I believe everything you said before, but I don't believe your last sentence. Zhao Yulan snorted coldly. If you don't say it, it's not because you think it's a small matter and you don't want to say it, it's because she is Zhang Yuzhen, right? Chu Xia suddenly realized. She was at a loss at first. She didn't understand why such an honest man as her father was so jealous. Now that she had named the list of people, she understood that that woman was very likely to be. I used to have a relationship with my father. Sure enough, Lin Baohe sighed helplessly. Yes, I admit it, I didn't say it because I was afraid you would misunderstand. I just didn't want you to feel uncomfortable, hey. I think you just did it to make me feel uncomfortable. You know, I happened to meet her when I went out today. I didn't even recognize her, but she greeted me first and held my hand. Just say, Bao he is such a good person, Yulan, you are so lucky to be married to Bao he, the life you are living now is really enviable, I will repay your favor after I make money. But the problem is, I don't know what kind of favor she wants to repay, and I can't ask, so I just agreed with a silly smile. I knew from the look in her eyes that she guessed that you were hiding it from me, but, people just don't say it. Lin Bao he, if she is a good person, I won't be angry, but you don't know what she is like. She was the one who wanted to marry you first, but after a visit to your house, did she regret it? Did I meet you after you were completely separated? Even though I knew you had nothing, I followed you wholeheartedly. Just because of this, shouldn't you hide it from me and give her a chance to demonstrate to me? Magnolia. Lin Bao he stared at his wife with his mouth open, not knowing what to say. Mr. Wan looked at Lin Bao he helplessly. Bao he, this matter is indeed your fault. No matter how big or small it is, you can't hide it from Yulan. She is not petty. You told her that she can't blame you. But what did you do? She's not angry that you helped that Jane, she's angry that you don't believe her, do you understand? Lin Bao he nodded repeatedly, I understand, I understand. If you don't do this then you are just confused. Sure enough, no matter what kind of person he is, he will easily get confused when encountering this kind of thing. Chu Xia took Zhao Yulan's arm and shook it, Mom, don't be the same as Dad. You should be angry with Dad, but instead come and think about it, if Dad didn't value you so much, why wouldn't he dare to tell you? Lin Bao he nodded again and again, yes, yes, yes. What is it? Zhao Yulan glared at him fiercely, didn't you say you know what my personality is like? Why don't you dare to say it? If you didn't have any evil intentions in your heart, would you dare not say it? Lin Bao he realized that he seemed to be grasping at straws too quickly and was a little confused. Rs. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 826. 3 updates. Looking at her father who was speechless and his face turned into a bitter gourd shape, Chu Xia had no choice but to continue to help him smooth things over. Mom, don't pick on Dad now. He is anxious and confused. Then you can talk to Dad. Can you let him know what exactly you are angry about? Yes, Yulan, tell me what exactly makes you angry. Chu Xia almost knelt down, my biological father, I am trying to help you smooth things over. What are you trying to say? Aren't you just trying to find trouble for yourself? Wan Lao has already analyzed this issue. As expected, Zhao Yulan looked at Lin Bao he with eyes full of disappointment. We have lived together for so many years, you really don't know what I am angry about. Lin Bao he also reacted at this moment, his face turned red, and he bowed deeply to Wan Lao first. Uncle Wan, it's not that I didn't listen to what you said, I was just confused. Then he looked at his wife, Yulan, I know, of course I know what you're angry about. Isn't this just because you are so anxious that you don't know what to say? Why don't you, give me a beating? Zhao Yulan snorted coldly, I don't think my hand hurts. Then I'll hit myself, Lin Bao he said, and actually slapped himself in the face. Chu Xia was stunned and quickly stepped forward to hold him. Dad, what are you doing? It's such a big deal, and... He lowered his voice and pointed his chin towards the kitchen. Uncle Wang and Aunt Qin are still here, and there are also guests in the room over there. With Lin Bao he's slap, all the anger in Zhao Yulan's heart disappeared, and she secretly blamed herself. She knew clearly what kind of temper her husband was, so why did she continue to make trouble with him? Hey, she too was so angry after just a few words from that woman. I thought she wasn't like this before. She was used to living a good life, but she couldn't even bear the anger. With this in mind, she quickly called to her husband, "Sit down quickly, don't stand there and look embarrassed. If you do something wrong, you do something wrong. It just makes everyone bear witness." Lin Baohe looked at his wife seriously. "Yulan, I promise never to do such stupid things again. In fact, I just see that you are worried about your daughter's health, your daughter's studies, and your daughter's safety all day long, so I don't want to add any more troubles to you. It's not like I don't know how much you annoyed her when you were young. Even after all these years, you can't just look at her and be happy with her. I really don't want you to think of those unpleasant old things." Without any psychological preparation, I panicked when you asked me, and started looking for excuses. You believe me, what I am saying now is definitely my true thoughts. You believe me, okay. Mother. Chu Xia looked at Zhao Yulan with a black line. "Are you really worried about me and me, like Dad said?" Zhao Yulan coughed unnaturally. "It's not as serious as your father said." This meant she had admitted it. Chu Xia looked at her helplessly. "Mom, before you came to the capital, you were worried about this and that. Later, when I talked to my mother, she also said that I would stop worrying blindly in the future. Think on the bright side. I thought Mom had really changed, but I didn't expect she was still the same. Mom and Dad were so anxious to get the job. Are they still worried that the Zhou family would pick on me?" Zhao Yulan hurriedly denied. No, your father and I just went to get work because we couldn't have any time. What's the matter with two big laborers, eating at home all day long? I don't believe it. Mom and Dad must still be a little worried. Even if they know they are sincere, Mom and Dad will still be uneasy, right?" Chu Xia sighed. "Forget it, you are here at your age anyway, so you can't do anything. There are benefits to a little bit, but I won't take it seriously. I also know that unless one day I can really support half of the family, it will be difficult for you to live with us in a down-to-earth manner." Xia. Zhao Yulan looked at her daughter apologetically, not knowing what to say. Indeed, even if the Zhou family specifically talked to them, and the son-in-law also specifically talked to them, they were still a little worried subconsciously, wasn't it? "Don't believe it, this is simply instinct." "Mom," I said, "I don't blame you. It's my incompetence that makes Mom and Dad live in an uneasy way. I won't raise this issue again in the future. I believe that one day, I can make you feel at ease. Let's talk about the two of you now, Dad." Chu Xia looked at Lin Baohe. "You said that Zhanggajan came here to take care of her son who is in college, right?" "Yes." "Then I have a question. Her son should be about the same age as me or older, right? It's impossible for her son to be pregnant, right? Why does he need her to take care of him?" Huh, Lin Baohe just stood there, he really didn't think about it. His son has a dormitory, a stipend, and he doesn't have to worry about food, clothing and sleep. But when she comes, she doesn't even have a place to live. How can she take care of her? Is it possible to wait for her son to take out his dirty clothes and wash them for her? Dad, Mom, you used to dote on me so much, so I can't even wash my clothes, right? Chu Xia looked at Lin Baohe seriously. "It's a good thing that my father is kind-hearted and willing to help others, but if he just helps without understanding the situation, I don't agree with it. The key is, because of her, she made my mother angry and made my father confused. Of course, I believe everything my father said, but I don't believe that woman. After dinner later, my mother and I will go over and take a look." "Dad, please don't go." "Okay. Okay, okay." Lin Baohe nodded repeatedly. He dared to say no, and it was true. He trusted people too much, and he didn't dare to say that people had bad intentions towards him. But judging from everything that had happened now, it seems wrong. Bao. Mr. Wan looked at his godson with a serious expression on his face. After what happened today, you have to remember a lot. The old man, dare to conclude now that that woman did it intentionally. Otherwise, she wouldn't have dragged Yulan to talk so much, and it wasn't Yulan who helped her. She didn't know her relationship with Yulan in the past. What qualifications did she have to talk to Yulan like that? I have no objection to Yulan and Chuxia going today, but if you see her again in the future, you must correct your attitude and not let her think that you still have feelings for her. Uncle Wan, how could I think that, Lin Bao, he said with a bitter look on his face. I already know what kind of person she is. I just think she is unfamiliar with the place where she lives. How can I fulfill my responsibility as a fellow villager? What kind of affection do you have for her? Who said you have feelings for her? But don't let her misunderstand you. Mr. Wang glared at him. You are quite rude sometimes. How could you become such a fool now? Lin Bao, he scratched his head and smiled stupidly without answering. He realized that everything he said seemed to be wrong. Seeing his look, Zhao Yulan also felt soft-hearted and sighed. Okay, let's leave it as it is this time. I don't blame you. Speaking of which, if we hadn't moved to a new place and were not familiar with each other, yes, these things can't happen. Lin Bao, he quickly nodded in agreement. That's right, if it weren't for the new place, you wouldn't have so many worries, and I wouldn't dare to tell you. Afraid that the two of them would get angry again, Mr. Wan said, okay, let's leave it like this for now. Xiao Ran has stuck his head over there several times. Xia, go over and take a look. When Chu Xia walked to the kitchen, she stretched her head and asked, Aunt Qin, how long until dinner is ready? Aunt Qin hurried over to greet her. There are still 2 big dishes that will be ready in 10 minutes. Are you hungry, young lady? Can I serve you some broccoli first? I'm not hungry, I just want to know the meal time. Chu Xia smiled at her. I'll go to the West Wing and we'll come over for dinner in about 20 minutes. Aunt Qin responded respectfully and continued to work in the kitchen. As soon as Chu Xia walked out of the door, Lin Mengran waved to her. Why did you come here? I've been looking around for a long time. I wanted to go find you, but Zhou said that you and your family looked like you were talking about something, so I didn't let you. I went over there and it suffocated me to death. With Zhou accompanying you, what's there to hold back? Chu Xia looked at Zhou Wan with a smile. Right. Zhou admitted openly, yeah, I don't think I'm a boring person either. Chu Xia, what do you want from me? I want to ask about your brother Zhou Hai. I don't know if it's convenient or not. Zhou, who was still smiling at first, immediately turned serious when he heard Chu Xia mention Zhou Hai. Lin Mengran said quickly, do you want me to avoid it? No need. Zhou waved his hand and looked at Chu Xia. What do you want to know about my brother? Let me be straightforward. Yamiru, whom your brother likes now, used to be my husband's fiancée. As for her character, I dare not compliment her. Of course, I don't say this out of jealousy or jealousy. Her behavior is there. If you don't believe what I say, you can go investigate. Of course, I am telling you this not because I am nosy and want to destroy the relationship between your brother and Yamiru, but to complete a task assigned to me by my husband. Do you know Ouj? Zhou nodded, of course. What's the relationship between her and your brother? We always thought she was my sister-in-law. Zhou sighed, but my brother didn't know what happened. Suddenly, he didn't like her at all, and he wanted to be with Yamiru no matter what. As for Yamiru you mentioned, there is probably no one in the circle who doesn't know about her, right? No one wants to have anything to do with such a person, except my eldest brother. To tell you the truth, I only made up my mind to come to school after the 15th day of the first lunar month, just to reduce the pressure on my elder brother. I have told Lin Mengran about our family affairs. You can ask her later. Anyway, I can tell you clearly that we are definitely on the same side, and I will never accept someone like Yamiru as my sister-in-law. Ours. First marriage then love, Mr. Mayor please be kind. Author, Zhao Nuan. Chapter 827. Zhejiang, I have to emphasize to you again that I am not looking for you to stop Yamiru from being with your brother, but... After a pause, Chu Xia told the truth, but for Oug, or to put it bluntly, it's for Minister Ou. Of course, I have no feelings for them personally, but my husband approves of Minister Ou. You. Zhejiang looked at Chu Xia, hesitated for a moment, and then asked Xian Lai, do you suspect that my coming to the medical university was arranged by Yamiru? I have had doubts about this. Chu Xia nodded. Given how obsessed your brother is with Yamiru, you can't blame us for having doubts. After all, what is Yamiru's character? Thank you. Zhejiang's expression was full of sincerity. You can trust me with just a few words. Thank you very much. Chu Xia smiled. Actually, I didn't have any doubts about you. If you really helped Yamiru under your brother's order, you shouldn't be so calm. We have nothing to do with each other until now. Right. Zhejiang Xiao's eyebrows curved. It's your husband who doubts me, right? Then I'm really flattered. It's such an honor to have him regard me as his opponent. Chu Xia raised her eyebrows. Do you know him? How is it possible? Zhejiang smiled sheepishly. I am not qualified to know him. The elders always use him as an example, so his name and deeds are not unfamiliar to me at all. Chu Xia's expression turned serious. If you can, please advise your brother more. Don't ruin your whole life. Yamiru has no other abilities, but her ability to destroy people is first-rate. Anyone who has anything to do with her anyway, there's basically no good ending. I know. Zhejiang's expression became serious. When I was at home, I always tried to persuade him, but he seemed to have developed a rebellious attitude toward this kind of persuasion. He would kill anyone who told him about it. Be an enemy. Our brothers have always had a good relationship since we were young, but because of this incident, he basically ignored me. My parents are elders, and he can't act like that. However, every time they say, he listened expressionlessly. After they finished speaking, he immediately stood up and left expressionlessly. It was obvious at a glance that he had not listened to a word. Anyway, our family has made him miserable. Originally, the position of the head of the family was definitely my dad's, but now because of his performance, there have been variables. As for me, the second candidate for the next head of the family, I have also been eliminated. Pushed back a few. I have said this to Lin Mengran. Let her tell you when you are chatting in the evening. Anyway, I just want you to know that it is not that I don't try my best, but that my brother's personality is different from ordinary people, and, he was interested in nothing but biology. Wrong. Now it should be said that except for biology and Yamiru, he is not interested in anything else. He will not take the development of the family or who will be the head of the family at all. Chu Xia couldn't help but sigh. Fortunately, your Zhou family doesn't stipulate that only the eldest son has the right to inherit. Otherwise, it would really be ruined at the hands of your brother. Lin Mengran smiled slyly. Don't you think his brother is a bit similar to King Yu of Zhou, who played with the princes in a beacon fire show? Zhejiang corrected her with a serious face. It's unfair to say that. If my brother is really like that, do I need to think so much about him? He is just simple and only interested in scientific research. Okay, I was just joking. Seeing how serious you are. After a pause, Lin Mengran gave Zhejiang a thumbs up. But anyway, I admire you, even if your brother I've done this to you, but you still care about him so much. If my sister was half as good as you, I wouldn't compete with her for half a point. The two of them are completely the two extremes of human nature. One is very simple, and the other is very scheming. If my brother and your sister have the same personalities. After a pause, Zhejiang shook his head. It can't be like this at all. Hypothetically, if my brother and your sister are the same, he will never look at Yamiru, and I don't need to worry about him. That's true, Lin Mengran sighed. If I could choose, I would rather have a brother like you than a sister like me. You don't know the pain, and you have been bullied by her since you were a child. I have never tasted the feeling of being proud. Zhejiang also sighed quietly. Zhou is actually a good brother. He has been different from other children since he was a child. While other children played treasure hunting, played house, and fought, he just sat there and read books. However, if someone bullies me, he will definitely rush to help me, but he is too weak to beat others, so he uses the stupidest method, pressing me on top of him and taking the beating for me. After this happened too many times, the others changed their approach. After he lay on top of me, they pressed on top of him one by one. As a result, I couldn't breathe. Then the next time they pressed on him, he quickly moved aside to let me run away. As a result, we were both crushed together before I had time to run. Anyway, my brother helped me every time I was bullied, but we both suffered together every time, and there was never a time when he could really protect me. When I was little, I thought he was quite incompetent. I even told him that he would stand aside when others bullied me in the future. I didn't need his help. He just listened silently and didn't explain. But when the time came next, this time, I still go my own way. When I grew up, I understood the value of that kind of protection, and I was particularly grateful to him. Therefore, this time he came to a dead end, and I had to accompany him out. Chu Xia nodded. I understand, your brother actually has a very shaky personality, but he is very affectionate, so it is basically impossible to end this matter without hurting him. Yes, Zhejiang looked confused. Otherwise, I wouldn't have to make this decision. I'm just afraid that if I stay at home any longer, the relationship with my brother will really get out of hand. Lin Mengran's eyes turned to Chu Xia. His family's affairs are indeed quite complicated, even more complicated than mine, so it is rare for him to drop everything and come to school at this time. It also shows that he is very affectionate. He will go back to finish the meal. I'll tell you. Okay, Chu Xia nodded and stood up. The food should be laid out over there. Let's go over to eat. Zhejiang, I will tell Zhou Mikang truthfully. Don't worry, he should be sensible. Okay, thank you. Zhejiang couldn't help but sigh. I quite believe in God's will now. Otherwise, why would I have chosen the medical university? To be honest with you, I originally wanted to go to be honest, I changed my mind temporarily when I was filling out my application form. Lin Mengran looked at him curiously. What do you mean by temporarily changing your mind? Zhejiang smiled. We'll talk about this later. Lin Mengran curled her lips, and one look at his expression showed that he didn't want to talk about this issue and was just looking for excuses. After dinner, Zhejiang said goodbye. Chu Xia and Lin Mengran went out to see him off. When waving goodbye, Zhejiang said to Lin Mengran, you can consider staying with me. This should be helpful to the fight between you and your sister benefit. What does he mean? Lin Mengran looked at Chu Xia with joy and worry in his eyes. It means that he doesn't like me, but he is just willing to cooperate with me, right? You don't care about him. Regardless of whether he likes it or not, if you have this opportunity, seize it. If you are really destined, will you still have to worry about this issue? And Chu Xia smiled playfully at her. He can take the initiative to come to you and tell you his private affairs, can make such a request, and say that he doesn't like you at all. Do you believe it? You really think so? Lin Mengran's eyes suddenly lit up. You're not trying to make me happy, are you? Okay, I already know the answer, but I'm still pretending to be confused. Chu Xia rolled her eyes at her, then held her hand with a flattering smile on her face. Lin Mengran shuddered unconsciously. Don't scare me, are you trying to change your face? But why do I look like a weasel giving New Year greetings to a chicken with no good intentions? You. Chu Xia pushed her away. Originally I wanted to ask you for a favor, but since you said so, forget it. You can go back to your room and rest by yourself later, and I'll go do some errands with my mother. Let Uncle Wang follow us. No, 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 I'll stay with you. It's not good to let a big man like Uncle Wang stay with you, right? Lin Mengran imitated Chu Xia's expression when he was trying to please her. No matter what happens, you can't leave me behind, I'm the eldest sister. You're still a big sister. Chu Xia muttered and walked inside. Of course, she chose to let Lin Mengran accompany her after careful consideration. Relatively speaking, it is definitely more convenient for a girl to follow than for a big man like Uncle Wang to follow. Wang Zhongliang is always reluctant to tear up a piece of gajan, and Lin Mengran's skills are there. With her together, the couple will never suffer, and the father can be assured of peace of mind. Besides, there are also people arranged by Zhou Mikang, but she has not seen their true faces until now. Anyway, she believes that they will definitely show up whenever she is in danger. Of course, she has already discussed this matter with my mother. After all, this is my mother's private matter. If I mind, she will never arrange it like this. In the end, Wang Zhongliang was finally allowed to follow. Not only Wang Zhongliang, but also Lin Baohe came with him. It was Mr. Wan who suggested it. This matter was very clear. The one named Zhang Yuzhen had a purpose at all, so there was no need to be sneaky. Yes, once you explain things clearly, if the other party doesn't understand you again in the future, you don't have to be polite. The car stopped at the entrance of the toy factory. Lin Baohe and Wang Zhongliang were waiting in the car. Chu Xia and Lin Mengran followed Zhao Yulan in to find Zhang Yuzhen. Rs.